Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. And today we are going to be tackling AI.
Yes.
And in particular, one company
Right.
that is sort of come out of nowhere
Yeah.
and has really kind of shocked the tech world.
Really shaking things up. This company, DeepSeek, a small Chinese startup,
DeepSeek, yeah.
just 200 people.
Yeah, and we're basing this on a Sky News article. It's titled, "What is DeepSeek? The low-cost Chinese AI firm that has turned the tech world upside down." So just to give you a sense of
Yeah.
the impact that they've had, their AI chatbot launched just this past Monday, and already U.S. tech stocks have lost like over $1 trillion
Yeah, it's been pretty wild.
in market value.
Almost 600 billion of that was wiped off NVIDIA's market value in a single day,
Right.
which was the largest single-day drop in U.S. stock market history. It's unbelievable.
Mind-blowing. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
tiny company just founded last year by Liang Wenfeng. He's a former hedge fund co-founder.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is they've done this with a fraction of the resources of these big players like OpenAI.
Right, yeah.
You know, companies like that have been investing billions in AI development.
Yeah.
And this Sky News article highlights that DeepSeek spent less than $6 million to develop their DeepSeek V3 model.
It's insane. Yeah.
It's a totally different approach. It seems to be working.
Yeah, there's a quote in here. Morgan Brown, he's the VP at Dropbox, and he calls DeepSeek's approach
Yeah.
insanely cost-effective.
It is when you think about it.
Yeah, and that's what...
How are they
Yeah.
creating such powerful AI
Yeah.
with so few resources?
Yeah.
Well, their secret weapon seems to be this focus on what they call reasoning skills.
Yeah.
And it's embodied in their R1 model. DeepSeek claims that this can even outperform OpenAI's model, the O1,
Okay.
on certain tasks, and all while being 20 to 50 times cheaper to run.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about raw processing power. It's about like building AI that can think more efficiently, almost like a human. It's kind of like that.
So that's why people are drawing comparisons to
Yeah.
the Sputnik moment, which is something Mark Andreessen said in the article.
Oh, right.
He's a venture capitalist who advises President Trump on tech policy.
Okay.
He sees DeepSeek as a potential turning point in the global tech landscape.
Yeah.
He warns that if the U.S. overregulates AI, it could give Chinese companies like DeepSeek a bigger advantage.
I see. So it's interesting how this one company is sparking these reactions.
Yeah.
From economic anxieties to a new technological arms race.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was interesting that the article mentioned that DeepSeek acquired 10,000 of NVIDIA's A100 chips early on, and those are essential for AI development.
Right. And that's significant because the U.S. later put restrictions on selling those chips to China.
Oh, wow.
So they stocked up right before the restrictions, almost like they were a step ahead.
Yeah, like they knew it was coming.
Yeah. And anticipated these moves.
Wow. So what about President Trump? How
Yeah.
did he respond?
Well, he called it a wake-up call for American industries.
I see.
And that might lead to a tightening of export controls, similar to the policies from the Biden administration, trying to limit China's access to important technologies and maybe slow them down.
Okay, so this one company is causing ripples not only in the tech world, but also internationally in trade policies. And what about data privacy? There's a lot of concerns there as well.
Yeah. How is DeepSeek going to handle user data, especially after the issues surrounding TikTok and data security?
Right.
The article talks about these concerns and that we need more transparency from DeepSeek about their practices.
On the other hand, the article does present a counter-argument from Dr. Lucas Alednik. He's an independent researcher, and he suggests that DeepSeek's open-weight model design could enhance data privacy. I have to admit, I don't really know what that means. Can you explain that a little?
Sure. An open weight model lets the AI run locally, so like on your device, on your phone or computer, or even a special AI chip in a device. So you wouldn't have to send your data to a central server, which is often where the privacy concerns come from.
Oh, I see. So you could have DeepSeek's AI without your data ever leaving your device.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a cool idea that could address some of the data privacy and control issues.
Right, but we'll have to see how they actually implement it.
Of course.
And whether their claims hold up. Okay, so we've got this incredible technology, potential economic problems, international tension, data privacy questions, and we haven't even talked about how DeepSeek handles sensitive topics related to the Chinese government.
The article mentions that they seem to avoid or censor responses to questions about certain topics like Taiwan, the Tiananmen Square protests, and the treatment of Uyghurs.
So this is shaping up to be a pretty complicated
Yeah.
deep dive. Technological disruption, economic impact, international tension, data privacy, potential censorship, all wrapped up in one company. How do we even begin to sort through all of this?
Well, I think we need to start with appreciating just how impactful DeepSeek has been and how quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They've challenged the giants of the AI world using very few resources,
Right.
which is amazing.
Right.
And it makes us wonder what this means for the future of AI.
Right. That's a great question, and one that we'll continue to explore in part 2 of this deep dive. But before we move on, what stood out to you the most so far?
I think it's how bold they are. This little company comes out of nowhere and just changes everything
Yeah.
about AI. It reminds us that innovation can come from anywhere
Yeah.
and really fast. It also shows that we have to be flexible and adapt because the technology is changing so quickly.
I totally agree. It shows that we're in a really transformative time for technology. The effects are huge, and we're just beginning to understand the changes that are happening.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the U.S. trying to restrict the sale of those ships to China
Right.
backfired because it pushed DeepSeek
That's
to be
different.
even more innovative. And
Yeah. It's a classic example of how trying to control technology
right,
can backfire. DeepSeek had to adapt, and they might even be ahead now.
it makes you wonder if the U.S. actually made China's AI
Possible.
better by trying to slow it down.
Yeah, by making DeepSeek think differently, they might have accidentally helped them make even better technology.
Right.
It's like unintended consequences.
Right. Speaking of those unintended consequences, let's go back to DeepSeek avoiding those sensitive topics
Right.
related to the Chinese government, like Taiwan or the Tiananmen Square protests.
Yeah, that raises questions about bias in their AI. Think about it.
Okay.
AI learns from tons of data, and that data shows it the world. If DeepSeek's AI is mainly trained on data that's already been filtered by the Chinese government,
Yeah.
then it makes sense that the AI would have those same biases.
So it's like if you only read one type of book,
Exactly.
you'd have a limited view of all the books out there.
Right, so when DeepSeek's AI avoids topics or gives answers that agree with one side,
Right.
it makes you wonder about who's choosing the data, who's deciding what it can say.
Right. Yeah.
These are important questions, especially as AI gets more integrated into our lives.
It's like we need to be able to understand the information we get from AI
Absolutely.
and understand the biases.
We can't just be amazed by what AI can do.
Right.
We need to ask tougher questions about its limits and how it might be biased and what that means for us.
Okay, so we talked about the technology, the potential for bias,
Yeah.
and the geopolitical stuff, but what about the economic impact? That $1 trillion drop in U.S. tech stocks
Oh yeah, that was huge.
shows how much power might be shifting.
DeepSeek shows us that things are changing in the tech world. For years, Silicon Valley was the center of innovation. But DeepSeek's success shows that others are catching up and maybe even passing them.
And the way they are doing it, focusing on efficiency and cost,
Yeah.
is making those big companies rethink how they do AI.
It's like they're changing the rules.
Yeah.
Imagine how OpenAI feels.
Right.
They spent billions developing AI, and it's on huge computing power. Now they have a competitor who can do the same or better with way less.
Yeah.
It's disruption, and it's shaking things up.
It's exciting because this competition might lead to better innovation,
Yeah.
quicker development, and maybe even lower prices for us. But it's also a little scary to think about what this shift in power could mean in the long run.
It's like we're on a cliff.
Yeah.
We see the potential, but we also see the risks and the things we don't know yet. Will DeepSeek's success lead to more innovation around the world or more tension and a tech world that's more divided?
It's like a fork in the road, and the decisions we make now will decide which way we go.
Right.
And it's not just about the tech, it's about the politics and economics that are affecting how it's developed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. We are seeing a shift in power happening right now, and it's not just about technology. It's about global influence and money and how we live and work and interact with everything.
So how do we make sense of all this? How do people like me or our listeners who are interested in tech but not AI experts, how do we understand this fast-changing world? It feels like we're trying to catch up to a train that's already speeding along and we don't even know where it's going.
That's a great way to put it. And one of the places it might be going is towards an AI arms race.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What does an AI arms race even mean?
Imagine countries competing not about who has the most weapons, but who has the best AI. It's like nations trying to make AI that's better than everyone else's at things like surveillance or cyber warfare. even autonomous weapons.
So instead of like stockpiling nukes, we're stockpiling algorithms.
Kind of, yeah. The focus changes from physical weapons to being the best in the digital world, and it's not just about the military. AI
Mm.
could change everything: healthcare, transportation, money, energy. Whoever has the best AI could control those things and basically control the future.
That's exciting and scary at the same time.
It is. The stakes are higher than ever, and that's why DeepSeek is so important. They're showing that the U.S. might not always be the best in AI anymore. Other countries are catching up and might even be better in some ways.
It's like we're living in a sci-fi book, but it's getting realer every day. It's hard to keep up.
It is tough to stay ahead of the curve. But we need to talk about AI and ethics and responsible development and global cooperation and what happens if this AI arms race gets out of control.
You said global cooperation. Do you think that's possible with how divided the world feels right now?
It's hard,
Yeah.
but I think we have to, if we let AI become a game where there's only one winner, we all lose. We need to find ways to work together to make rules for AI that benefit everyone.
Like an international agreement, some rules that everyone follows to make sure AI is used for good.
Exactly. And that idea is getting more popular with policymakers and experts around the world. The hard part is getting everyone to agree on what those rules should be, but we need to start talking now.
Because if we don't, AI might end up controlled by just a few people and everyone.
That's the risk. But it doesn't have to happen that way. We have the power to decide what happens with AI. We need to be aware and involved and think beyond just our own countries. We have to make the right choices now to create the future we want.
This DeepSeek story has been really eye-opening. It's made me realize how complicated AI really is. It's a little overwhelming, honestly.
That's okay. It means you're thinking about it, and that's what we need more of.
So what should our listeners take away from this? What should they think about when they see AI in their lives?
Be involved, not just a bystander. Learn about AI. Be critical. Ask questions about how it's being used, who's controlling it, and what could happen. The future of AI isn't set in stone. We're deciding what it will be right now, and we can make sure it's a good future for everyone.
That's a great message, and I hope our listeners will think about it. We've talked about a lot today. DeepSeek's amazing technology, the changes in the economy, the potential for bias in AI, the possibility of an AI arms race, and why countries need to work together. It's been fascinating, and I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great talking about this with you and our listeners. Before we finish, I want to leave everyone with one last thought. Does DeepSeek's success mean the balance of power and technology is changing? And if it does, are we ready for what might happen next?
That's a good question to think about as we explore this new world. The answers might not be easy, but asking those questions is the first step to making sure AI is a force for good in the world. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next time to explore another topic that's shaping our world.